Good morning. Friday morning here. Time for Fridays with Frank. It's Scott Cullen, editor-in-chief of the Cannata Report. Before I bring out Frank, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, send Frank your questions. And Frank, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
I'm doing just great, Scott. Things are going along very nicely, and I'm just so happy to be here on Friday morning. Uh, what's on my mind? Well, I'll tell you, we're in the midst, as you well know, with conducting our 39th annual dealer survey. I'm frankly, I'm disappointed in the response that we're receiving from the dealers because I had assumed, based on what we've been receiving these last few years, that dealers understood the importance of this and what it means to the industry. So I took another look at last year's and I said, what was kind of unusual about it? What was different? Or what was something we didn't address? Well, if you read the issue that Scott put together and doing his usual great job, we had 458 dealers that generated $7.8 billion in revenue for an average of 17 million. 16 dealers, 16 of that 458 were over $100 million, and I believe it was actually recorded by Scott, that represented 45% of all the revenue. What I decided to do was go back and take a look at the survey at more of the top dealers. So what I used as a benchmark is those that contributed more than 40 million, all the way up to whatever it was. And to the original 16, we added 19 dealers. Now, when you add those 35 dealers together, they represented 7.6% of all the dealers in the survey, which was 458. Their revenue was $4,462,377,644. That was 56.6% of all the revenue, 35 dealers. The average revenues for those 35 dealers was $127,496,504.10. I had to add that 10 cents. So now you look at that and you say, my God, look at the control, or not the control, but the amount of revenue that is coming from such a small group of dealers. Now you take all the rest, the 458 less the 35, you have 423 dealers. And now that's 92.4% of all the dealers responding. They generated $3,420,395,466. Now, 43.4% of the revenue. So 56.6 came from 35, and from 423, you got 43.4. And their average revenue was $8,086,041.29. That's a pretty telling story in itself. Now, what we try to do is let's try and get a handle on what the total revenue that the dealers contributed. The number of active dealers out there has always been a challenge for us in terms of recording it as accurately as possible. The number we've kind of worked with is 1,500. And we've been saying that for a while, and I don't know if there's 1,500 or 1,400. But for the moment, what I did is I projected out of 1,500 We received 458 dealers. That meant it left 1,042 dealers left. Now, bear in mind that 1,042 dealers didn't have any $100 million dealers because we had them all. Had some $20 million dealers and had some $40 million dealers and $10 million dealers. And we try to come up with an average that we thought was truly representative. And we came up with an average of 12 million. And if you combine the two, total dealer revenue in our industry last year was rough, and it has to be a rough because the part we just did was all guesswork, estimate work. 185,273,110. We're saying that of the entire industry, let's just kind of round it. Dealers are representing about 10 billion. Now, is that all the MFP and production print? No, of course not, because we're not talking about direct sales. What was direct sales contribution? Again, looking at the numbers of particularly of the Japanese manufacturers, you have to add quite a bit on the direct side, and I think it was equal to what the dealers did. So in round numbers, the dealer or the copier piece, the MFP piece, is roughly $20 billion. Now, that's direct dealer revenue. The industry is valued higher than that by virtue of the vendors and everything else that's involved with it. That gives you some sense of what the real world is for manufacturers. So maybe now you can better understand why the concentration dealers have to have for those high volume dealers, because they represent such a significant portion of their revenue. And dealers should not be concerned about it because it's essential, because it enables the manufacturers to achieve the goals. Without them, they would not be able to do. My message, I guess, after going through all that is very simple. We need this data to come up with these estimates, analytical approach to certain questions. Without this information, without us collecting this information, it doesn't happen. There's nobody that was ever gave any thought to doing something solely for dealers except us. We came out and we launched this program in 1986, starting with 1985 revenue. And all these years, what we've done is demonstrate in a very strong way just how strong the dealer business has been. And it continues to be, even though we've had this huge consolidation. If I can ask you anything, particularly those of you that are dealers, please take the survey. We need your help. That's my story, Scott.